Daf Yomi, tractate Bava Batra, Bava Batra, Bava Batra, 12b, top of the page, with the words Mishmei Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef. In the name of the well-known Tana Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef, in accordance with his statement, it is certainly, we're in the middle of a story, not really a story, but it was like Abai was saying, just the last line of the previous, but Abai was saying that, know that this is so, that the sages still enjoy the prophetic gift. As a great man makes a statement with regard to a point of halakha, a point of Jewish law, and the same statement is then cited in the name of a different great man in accordance with his statement, indicating that the sages make their statements in a way of prophecy. It's kind of like a sage makes a statement in one generation, and if it's a credible statement, if it's within truth, it holds water, so to speak, it goes on into the generations. It's like a prophecy who's saying something. I think that's what he's saying here. Rava disagreed and said, What is the difficulty with explaining this? Perhaps they were born under the same constellation, and since they are similar in their traits, they reach the same conclusions. So, I don't see why that's not prophecy. I think it looks like Rava's disagreeing. Seems to be that he's saying that if different sages at different times were born under the same constellation, then these sages would be inclined to think the same way, with that theory that basically the constellations hold all the information of different patterns and of everything, of ways of being, of ways of thinking, of ways of physical attributes and mental attributes. And so Rav is saying that perhaps a sage at a different time was born, let's say, in Virgo, let's say. Let's just say, I don't know, some Amora, I don't know, Baya was born in Virgo, and I don't want to say, and Rav Ashi was born in, how's it go? Let's say Rav was born in Aries, let's say, and later Amora, like Rav Ashi was born in, it would be interesting to say, like, okay, let's say Rabbi Bar Chana was born in, let's say, Gemini, and Rav Yochanan was born in Gemini. And oftentimes you see Amar Bar Chana, Amar Rav Yochanan. So I think what they're saying here is that if they were born in the same sign, then they would say the same thing. So it's not prophecy, because it's just. But my thought is that why does that have to contradict prophecy? Why can't prophecy work in accordance with that? If someone prophesies, it aligns with the constellations also. I don't see why that has to contradict. Why is Rava necessarily disagreeing? Why does he have to make a split and say, no, it's not prophecy, they could be in the same constellation? I don't see why they have to contradict. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about that. Rava said, no, this is so. A great man makes a statement, and the same statement is then cited in the name of the well-known Tana Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef in accordance with his statement. Certainly it cannot be maintained that the first sage is similar in his nature to the illustrious Rabbi Akiva, so he must have arrived at his statement through prophecy. Rav Ashi said, and what is difficulty with explaining this? Perhaps they were born under the same constellation with regard to this issue. The first sage has the same understanding of Rabbi Akiva. So Rav Ashi says, we have the same problem. You could be, a certain Tana could have been born under the same constellation as Rabbi Akiva. So that's why he thought the way Rabbi Akiva thought. So, rather, Rav Ashi said, no, that this is so. As a great man makes a statement, now we're on 12b, okay? Starting from Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef, that was starting in 12b. Mishmei Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef, okay? Second here. I'll plug this in. Rather, Rav Ashi said, no, that this is so. As a great man makes a statement, and the same statement is then cited as a halakha transmitted to Moses from Sinai In accordance with his statement, the sage makes a statement that corresponds to words pronounced in heaven, which without prophecy is beyond human capability. The Gemara states, but perhaps he arrived at this idea by chance, without the assistance of prophecy. Again, I don't understand what they mean by chance. Like a blind man makes his way through a skylight. Kisuma be'aruba. But even that is prophecy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's 6 versus half a dozen, really. This is how I see it. No pun intended with the blind man. Anyway. Dilma kasuma be'aruba v'lav tam yahiv. So they're trying to split hairs now. They're trying to say that maybe you arrived at this idea by chance, like a blind man making his way through a skylight. But isn't that prophecy also? Anything that a person does that's not conscious can be like Cain prophecy. So I don't know what these differences are. At any rate, a blind man cannot deliberately find a skylight. Therefore, his finding occurs by chance. The Gemara answers, but does the sage not offer reason for his statement? The fact that he demonstrates an understanding of the issue indicates that he does not arrive at this idea by chance, but rather by prophecy. So now it brings into question, what is really prophecy? Can prophecy be accessed through the intellect? This last line seems to indicate that there is some intellect involved. Although other times, prophecy is not intellect at all. You have to just receive it, and it goes completely contrary to the human intellect. So, I guess it's a personal take on this one. It's hard to understand this Gemara because the terms are not clearly defined. They're using prophecy in way of sages being wise and intellectual and having some knowledge, and then they can reach prophecy. Whereas you have people reaching it like a blind man, stumbling on it, and that. So anyway, it continues. Rabbi Yochanan said, from the day that the temple was destroyed, prophecy was taken away from the prophets and given to imbeciles and children. I can see that. And this would really vie for a blind man point of view, like just imbeciles. And it's interesting. I was just dealing with, just talking this morning. This is prophetic. I think this morning I was just dealing with Shem's puppets. Shem's puppets was like my version of Azamra. It was like a puppet school, but for autistic people. Which, I don't know if autistics and imbeciles are in the same thing scientifically, but some autistic are really far gone and don't have really any intellectual capability. So prophecy may be going to them as well. But it's funny because I was talking with someone about that and my involvement with this school for autistic children that I played music, and it was 2 years ago this summer, and before I even read this daf. So that's kind of a prophecy in itself. So I think that there's prophecy within the daf itself. See all the time things in the daf and events that are happening in that day. At any rate, Rabbi Yochanan says that the prophets are given to imbeciles and children. The Gemara explains in what way was prophecy given to imbeciles. It was like this incident involving Rav Ashi, who was standing in the street of Mahoza when he heard a certain imbecile say, the head of the yeshiva, who will be appointed in Mata Mehasya, signs his name Daf Yomi. Rav Ashi said to himself, who among the sages signs his name Daf Yomi? Nobody but me. Conclude from this statement, by the imbecile, my hour has arrived, and I will reap success in this matter. He arose and went to Mati Mahasya. By the time he arrived, the sages had already decided to appoint Rav Acha of Difti as head of the yeshiva. As soon as the sages heard that Rav Ashi had arrived, they determined not to proceed with their appointment without the approval of an important figure such as him. They sent a pair of sages to him to consult with him, and he detained them. They again sent a pair of sages to him, and he detained them as well. This continued until they completed a quorum of 10 sages. Once they reached 10 men, Rav Ashi opened his lecture, taught and expounded. He did not speak earlier because one should not open a lecture during Kala, the gatherings of Torah study during the months of El and Adar, when less than 10 men are present. He was then appointed as head of the yeshiva. Marbar of Ashi. Okay, so basically it looked like it was going one way, and then he became the head of the yeshiva. Understanding that he had been passed over for the position, Rav Acha of Difti read about himself in the rabbinic aphorism, anyone who is treated poorly will not soon be treated well, and anyone who is treated well will not soon be treated poorly. Rav Acha understood that he had lost the chance to be appointed, whereas Marbar of Ashi had the good fortune to be appointed and would remain in his position. Wow. I didn't realize it was such a coveted position. Anyway. Anywho's it. And in what way was prophecy given to children? It was like this incident involving the daughter of Rav Chizda, who when she was a child, was sitting on her father's lap while he sat and learned. Rava and Rami Bar Chama were sitting before him. Rav Chizda jokingly said to his daughter, "Which of them would you want as a husband?" She said, "I want both of them." Rava and Rami Bar Chama were sitting before him. "Which one of them would you want as a husband?" She said, "I want both of them." Rava said, "And I will be last." And this is what happened. First she married Rami Bar Chama, and when he died, she married Rava. Rava said, "I'll be last." V'ana Batra. Wow. Having already cited one statement of Rabbi Avdimi from Haifa, the Gemara cites another statement in his name. Rabbi Avdimi from Haifa says, before a person eats and drinks, he has two hearts, meaning his heart is unsettled because he is distracted by hunger. But after he eats and drinks, he has only one heart, as it is stated, a hollow man is two-hearted. Job 11:12. Ish navuv ilavev. Ish navuv ilavev. Okay. How is it indicated that navuv means hungry, as it is written concerning the altar? Navuv, what does it say here? Navuv luchot. Exodus 27:8, which we translate into Aramaic as hollow with planks, meaning that a hollow person, one who has not yet eaten, is two-hearted. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because when, let's say, you're really, really hungry, you can't think straight. So you might say things and think things that you would never think or never say if you weren't starving. But because you're starving, it's like a heart means that you're a different mind, you're a different person. That makes sense. The Gemara continues to discuss the meaning of Navuv. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, says, with regard to one who is accustomed to wine, although his heart, meaning his mind, is closed like a virgin, wine opens it. Afilu libo atum kebetula. Yain. As it is stated, and new wine opens the virgins. Zechariah 9:17. V'tirosh inovev betulot. Interesting. The word inovev is used here in the sense of clearing out a space. Even if one's heart and mind are closed, wine will open them to understanding. Okay. The Gemara resumes its discussion in the division of property. Rav Huna, son of Rav Yehoshua, says, it is obvious that if a person inherits a portion of his father's estate because he is the firstborn, and he also inherits a portion of that estate as an ordinary son, like the rest of his brothers, he is given 2 portions along one boundary, so that they are adjacent to one another and form a single property. The Gemara asks, what is the halakha with regard to a yavam, a man whose brother died without children, who is obligated by Torah law to marry his deceased brother's widow or grant her chalitza? If he marries his brother's widow, the halakha dictates that he receive his brother's portion of their father's estate in addition to his own. Does he too receive the 2 portions along one boundary? Abaye said, this case is equal to that case. Let's see, we're holding here on time. Okay. You know what we're going to do? We'll finish Abaye's statement and... 363.9. Interesting. Okay, busy. Abaye said this is equal to that case. What is the reason for this? The merciful one calls the Yavam firstborn. See Yavama 24a. And therefore he is treated like a firstborn in all regards. He receives the 2 portions of his father's estate as a single parcel of land. But Rava said, the verse states, and it shall be the firstborn, Deuteronomy 25:6. With regard to his being, in other words, in his inheritance itself, it is like a firstborn, but for the distribution of the estate, he is not like a firstborn, and the brothers are not obligated to give him 2 adjacent portions. And we shall continue with part B. Part 2, rather.